The hoax of the subconscious mind. That's right, the hoax of the subconscious mind. The great deception that's been pulled over everyone's eyes since this dude named Sigmund Freud created the term the subconscious mind, which he later recanted. So why is everyone teaching you've got to penetrate, permeate, and enlighten, reprogram the subconscious mind when there's no such thing? Welcome, evolutionaries. I am Joe Heller, and I am crazy excited to be here today because as we continue the Awakening series, I am going to pull the rug out of the subconscious mind and expose the teachers that are after the blood money, that are trying to teach you something to permeate and penetrate something for what? Wealth, success, achievement, prosperity, abundance, and yet it doesn't exist. How perplexing. Now, what's interesting, let's step back for a second and examine who Sigmund Freud was. So Sigmund Freud, as many of you know, is a psychoanalyst. He lived at the beginning of the 1900s, and he came up with the concept of the subconscious mind around in the 1930s. And it's interesting that he were to really kind of propose this, this anomaly, if you will, because at the time he was living in Vienna, Austria, and certainly, as I consider him, after doing some due diligence and some research, is that he was more of a puppet, controlled by the puppeteers. As a matter of fact, at the time, he was more a fan of Nazis than he was of America. Of course, he changed his tune a little bit later in life when the Nazis decided to kill him. Then he escaped from Vienna. And at that time, which is interesting, he actually recanted and said, you know what, there is no such thing as the subconscious mind. There is an unconscious mind, which I can talk about. The unconscious mind is very similar to the unlaws, and that really deals with the etheric mind, the celestial mind. But he went on to very well state that there is no such thing as a subconscious mind. And of course, what's interesting is that Harvard University and really every major accredited university in the world has said there is no such thing as a subconscious mind. So why do people keep teaching it? Well, it's for the money. That, or they just, I don't know. They haven't been able to figure out exactly that there's no such thing as a subconscious mind. Because here's the whole thing. If I'm teaching you how to do something or step into a room that doesn't exist, and I'm charging you good money for it, well, guess what? I've got to continue charging you good money because you're going to believe that it is your fault that you're not able to understand or understand the teachings that I'm sharing with you in order to step into and control this magical mystery place called the subconscious mind that's going to give you great success. Well, you know, as we, again, step back to Sigmund Freud, one of the favorite quotes, and there's really thousands of quotes out there on Sigmund Freud like this, is that Sigmund Freud was quoted, or what was quoted about Sigmund Freud was, no other notable figure was so fantastically wrong. I love that. So fantastically wrong about nearly everything important he had to say. But lucky for him, his errors had been perpetually kept alive, whitewashed by those who propagate his errors. Now, isn't that interesting? So what does that tell you? That tells you that these personal development gurus, these success teachers that are teaching you how to step into and reprogram and make tens of thousands of dollars on YouTube. Have you ever seen what some of these people will get paid by YouTube? If you follow these people, every time you watch a video, they get ka-ching. So realize that there is a whole propagation around teaching things that may or may not be true. Now, I'm not saying all teachers, and maybe not all aspects of a teacher's teachings, that's kind of weird to say, but of all teachers' teachings, really kind of are wrong. But I can definitely tell you that anything that they are stating about the subconscious mind is wrong. And it's interesting because subconscious, and we're all familiar with this model of the iceberg or the pyramid, which is really definitive of the subconscious mind. So you have to wonder, again, who the puppeteer was that was actually controlling Sigmund Freud. And if you look at this pyramid, you've got the 5% at the top, of course, which kind of resembles an Illuminati pyramid, doesn't it? And then, of course, the 95% down here, which is the what? The sub-mind, which is what they are trying to get you go into, this underworld, if you will. Oh, and speaking of underworlds, one of the interesting things my guides were, as they were explaining all this to me, they were saying that, what's interesting is, and of course, I'm not really a mythology person, so it's interesting when I get these insights of something that I have no idea that that I knew about. But it was talking about Hades. I'm like, okay, Hades, that kind of rings a bell, Hades, god of the underworld kind of a thing. And they said, you know what tool that Hades used when he controlled the people that were submissive in the underworld? I'm like, no, I have no idea. And they go, he used a bident. I'm like, a bident? Well, that's fascinating. So kind of like Poseidon's trident, because I'm more of a Poseidon kind of guy because I love the beach. And they go, yes, but let's examine the word bident. Take the T off. I'm like, oh, I'll take the T off. It's bident. Huh. Oh, interesting. Coincidence? I don't know. So when you look at the underworld, this other 95%, this sub, if you will, you are perpetuating something that is not true, because when I look at and speak to the God force within you and the celestial mind, there is no sub. This is exactly why and of course we all make goofs, and I do say understand, but I say understand because I don't want to put anyone under me. I want to stand with you heart to heart as we walk down this path together, heart first, so that we are enabled as an understanding within each other. And I never want to see, and I never see anyone under me. And this is the same thing they're doing here. They are placing you into a substructure, a subcult. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I wrote here was separate you from God. And then when I started thinking about that, I'm thinking to myself, because I'm a huge Neville Goddard fan as well, I'm thinking, I think Neville actually wrote something about this. So I pulled out one of his books, and sure enough, in his book, The Awakened Imagination, Neville wrote, if the story of the Immaculate Conception and birth of Christ appears irrational to man, it is only because it is misread as biography, history, and cosmology. And the modern explorers of the imagination do not help by calling it the unconscious or the subconscious mind. So what Neville was saying here, and I've conferred with some of my buddies on this, is that when you talk about the subconscious mind, you're creating a separation from God. And of course, we know Neville was a proponent of this God self within you, just as I am. And this is such a atrocity of teachings. And really, the teachers that are teaching about the subconscious mind, I'm at a loss, because again, Sigmund Freud debunked this. He himself, he is the creator. He is the one that originated the subconscious mind. And what's interesting, and typically this is what happens, is my guides, my angelics, that are guiding me through all this, they say, okay, now we're going to talk today, and I'm kind of like in a meditation, and go into an alpha state, and they start giving me all this great information, and so I draw, and of course, some of you know that I draw, and I've drawn hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures on things. And so this is what they had me map out relative to the subconscious mind. And I'm like, oh, that's really fascinating. And then they go, well, it's not true. And I'm like, what do you mean? I just sit there and I drew all this, and you're like instructing me. And of course, this is a false narrative. So it's interesting that the angelics really shared with me what a false teaching and how comprehensive a false teaching can be in the wrong hands, because I could go out and teach this and really make everyone believe in the structure and how to unfold this within the structure of God, and yet it would be false. It would be a illegitimate teaching. It would be something that only an illiterate would teach. And when I say illiterate, I'm not talking about someone that can't read or write. I'm talking about somebody that is illiterate to God and the God force within you, because they're trying to deceive and condense this God spark that is within you. So again, separate you from God is one of these things. It is the underworld. And again, we talked about this just a minute ago. It is the underworld. It's where they're trying to get you to focus and step into. It's going from the conscious mind into the underworld so that they can control you better. The pyramid, as I mentioned, it's actually a very similar pyramid to what we see on the United States dollar bill, with the all-seeing eye here, and of course the structure here, which is the financial, the banking, the control structure. This is the control structure. So again, who was the puppeteer to Sigmund Freud? And of course, this is all geared to enslave you. That's right. Anyone that is talking to you about the subconscious mind is enslaving you. They are entrapping you into a reality that isn't true. Now, as I kind of go through this, I've got a little bit more to share. But at the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly the true construct of the celestial mind and what that means and how that unfolds the God self within you. And it's really exciting because it's kind of like the big takeaway where when my guide showed me this, then they showed me this. And I was like, oh my God, that was like so fascinating, because this deals with the law of blossoming that my guides had given me in the past. So let's continue this dialogue on Sigmund Freud. So let's talk about Edward Bernay. And you're going, Joe, who the heck is Edward Bernay? I thought we were going to talk about Sigmund Freud. Well, Edward Bernay just happens to be Sigmund Freud's nephew. And Sigmund Freud and Edward Bernay corresponded quite a bit. So again, looking at the puppeteer. So Edward Bernay is the nephew of Sigmund Freud. He is known as the father of propaganda. So meaning that what is propaganda? First off, I mean, it is mind control. So he and his uncle were plotting, scheming on behalf of the puppeteers in order to control you. And so he, Edward Bernay, sold a lot of cigarettes and very harmful things under the tutelage of his uncle. And of course, this has nothing to do with the subconscious. This has everything to do with mind control. So there is a definitive difference between a false teaching, which is what they wanted you to believe, and then the true structure of mind control, which is what has unfolded with the help of Sigmund Freud. And again, every major psychoanalytical theory that he ever produced has been debunked by modern science. So why is he still hanging around? Why are people still teaching about the subconscious mind? It blows my mind. So getting back to Edward Bernay, he also worked for the CIA. And I more affectionately call these guys clowns in action, because they are the epitome of the alphabet agencies who have sought to control the world, including the citizens of the United States and all world populations through their respective alphabet agencies. And of course, Edward Bernay actually came up with the term conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory. Now, we've heard that term before. So why was the term conspiracy theory actually created? Well, it was created so that the truth could be denied as a conspiracy theory. So when you talk about certain things and you say, let's say something that is true, and we're seeing this right now, the lockdown is crazy with regards to truth and sharing information out there. So what happens is everything is labeled as a conspiracy theory, which of course the people that are not awake are going, oh, Joe, it's a conspiracy theory. No, it's not. would be telling me that what I just stated to you around the subconscious mind, Joe, that's a conspiracy theory. Well, no, it's not, because even Sigmund Freud, when he escaped Vienna, denied it was true. So again, why are people teaching this? And you see me on this video, I'm probably a little bit more animated than I normally am because I'm just so shocked and amazed at the deception and the depths of deception that has propagated through people that are supposedly awake that are teaching around the subconscious mind. It's just shocking to me, and it just doesn't take a whole lot of research. So, as we talked about, his uncle was Sigmund, But so, and I know this, as we talk about conspiracy theory in the subconscious mind, feel free to doubt me. I mean, feel free to make up your own mind. But if you don't move, even something that Sigmund Freud denied after he was like freed from the puppeteers towards the last couple of years of his life, you could stay trapped. You can stay trapped and believe that there is some kind of separation between you and God. So there is no sub. There's only holistic. There's the whole. There's no sub, and there's no under. There's only equality, equanimity between us as brothers and sisters. There's only the God self, the God force within each of us. So again, while people are teaching wealth, creating wealth and success, my main goal is to clear up the narrative and to stop the reincarnation cycle so that you are awake enough to enlighten that God spark, to blossom, so that you don't come back into this lifetime again, so that no one can enslave you. You make the choice to stand up as the righteous God force, and enlighten the righteous God's force within you, to stand up and enlighten even the darkest of pathways and hallways. So again, there's only the celestial mind of God. Now, here's where it gets fun and exciting. And before I started all this, one of the things my guides showed me or told me is they're like, we're going to give you an evangelical teaching. I'm like, evangelical? That's like, and of course, in my mind, I'm thinking about these evangelical preachers. That was the first thing that came. It's like, you shall be saved, kind of thing. Whatever. From the pulpit. And I'm like, that's really not my style. Or maybe it is. You guys might go, well, Joe, you're pretty animated right now. But my guides go, no, it's not evangelical around that, because evangelical means passionate. But they said, and of course, I've talked to y'all about the vibratory, the frequency, and the power contained in words. And so my guides, when they were talking to me about evangelical, and I had this mental picture of this crazy preacher guy, they go, no, look at the word. Angelic is the key word within this. And so as they were giving me this teaching, they wanted me to truly understand this was an angelic teaching that I am sharing with you. And it makes it so exciting for me to be able to share this with you. So let's take a look at the celestial mind of God. And by the way, one of the other things that they shared with me was, as I was going through and debunking the subconscious mind, they go, well, even the people thought Noah was crazy when he started building the boat before it started to rain. And then they go, wow, he had some really true, incredible insight. So getting back, let's talk about the celestial mind for a moment. And I will do another video that really goes deeper into this. So let's say you are here within the celestial mind. So the celestial mind is all expanding, and I've drawn this in a two-dimensional, but it's multi-dimensional. It is ever expanding in every basis of reality and the reality that you have yet to create. Because as a God, as the God force within you, you create reality. Again, it's not a matter of attraction. That is below the line, where everybody talks about the law of attraction. I saw someone the other day talk about law of attraction in the Bible, and I just had to shake my head as I kind of listened to him talk about this, and it's like, it's just not true. That is, it's a selfish act. So we are creators, those of us who understand and have aligned ourselves with the God force, this spark of illumination, that we are something far better. As a matter of fact, there was a key word that my guys gave me called illumi. I-L-L-U-M-I. I'd never heard that word before, but I thought that was fascinating because it was kind of like this way to describe the spark within us. I was like, oh, that is such a cool word. Anyway, so now I'm almost tempted to say illumi. That's kind of like just welcome, illumi. So let's talk about the celestial mind, because it's all about, as I've talked about, expansion. And this is the law of blossoming, because as we go deeper, so the key is, and I've shared this with you before, is you want to go within. So as we go within and we go and break through these etheric gates, as I've talked about, these passages, these walls that keep us constrained. And then my guys gave me this other really cool word, which is called, what was it called? It's called liminal, which I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool word, because liminal actually means the intermediate between two states, conditions, or regions. It is a boundary or transitional point between two conditions, stages in process. And actually in Latin, it means threshold, or in the original word was lemon, L-I-M-E-N, not like lemon, like you eat or squeeze. And the quality, so it is a rite of passage, which I have shared with you before. So I wrote all this down, and it's fascinating to me how everything really starts to synchronize and all the components come together. So as we expand into the depths of who we are, this inner mind, this inward power, this God force, we break through these liminal gates. These liminal gates are thresholds, which is exactly what I've talked about with regards to the etheric meditation, so meditating outside of your body, because all of these gates and passageways are really something of our own construct. And so as we, for lack of a better term, become more enlightened, again, illuminating this God force within us, we pass through these liminal gates to see within. And of course, when we see within, we expand. And so if we go through the first gate, we go into the external world and we begin to see more and more. And this is the blossoming effect. This is the whole concept that my guides gave me 5+ years ago, to see beyond. See beyond what is real. And of course, when you have the ability and you cultivate the ability, the inward presence to see beyond, you begin to see that there are people out there teaching division, like the subconscious mind, and it doesn't resonate. And back in the day, trust me, I bought all kinds of personal development stuff. So I was kind of like following all these people that were teaching this. And so for me, as my guides were explaining to me that it was a hoax, it was a deception, it is something that really took me back for a minute until they explained to me again what it was and why it happened. And again, when you do some research, you begin to understand that this is a mind control mechanism that has been propagated throughout society for those teachers that aren't awake enough to really understand they are separating you from your God force. So this celestial mind, as you break through the liminal gates, again, you are creating no separation, because it is an expansion of who you are. You are fully blossoming within the infinite mind of God, the celestial mind of God. So this, when you go inward, is space-time. When you go outward, is time and space. So you have the ability, once you have tapped into this inward God force, this resonance of illumination, as you are an illumi. How did I pronounce that? Illumi. That it's just such a powerful understanding, I mean, and you should walk away from this video just super excited that there's been a curse, if you will, dispelled around the subconscious mind, and you've got this new blueprint that is angelic, evangelical, and it's just really exciting to me to share this with you. So I know there's probably going to be some questions, because as we go through this process into infinity, again, we are limitless beings. You are just an incredible presence of God having an experience here. As I talked about last time, God became human so humans can become God. Or actually, I said that humans become God. So that is the I am that I am. This is the process of evolving. This is the process of tapping into that, which is the evolutionary journey of becoming. And I am so excited to share this with you today. So, evolutionaries, leave me questions, thoughts. This is something really exciting to me. As I wrap up this Awakening series, I've got one more planned video, which I'm going to talk a little bit about the law of attraction, or the lack thereof. And then I'm going to go into some more definitive teachings, but I wanted to set a groundwork on dispelling so many myths, so many deceptions that have populated. I mean, for example, I consider the subconscious mind, the topic of the subconscious mind, a mind virus. It is a virus that has been set out to control you. Yes, no, you feel fine, but it's something that you can never achieve because it doesn't exist. So be wary of people out there that are speaking to the subconscious mind, something that Sigmund Freud, after he freed himself from the control of the Nazis, actually himself debunked. So with that, focus on the expansion, the blossoming of who you are, this illumination within, and again, leave me comments. I love you guys so much. It is a thrill for me to be here, to be this evangelical messenger on behalf of my guides, to shake things up and help guide you into this next evolutionary state. And I'm not the guide, I'm the messenger, so that we all move forward, walking heart to heart into this new paradise, this new Garden of Eden together. So with that, I love you. Bye-bye.